Ethan Hayes never planned to crash on an uncharted planet. He was supposed to complete a simple scouting mission, collect samples, take readings, and return to the ship before nightfall. But life had its own way of surprising him. The shuttle had malfunctioned in mid-flight. Alarms screamed in his ears, and before he could even send a distress signal, he was falling through the strange purple clouds of an unknown world. The last thing he remembered was gripping the seat, trying to breathe, and feeling the entire shuttle twist like it was being pulled apart. When he woke up, everything was silent, too silent. The sky above him was a shade he had never seen, a glowing combination of violet and silver. Strange floating particles drifted lazily like glowing dust. He tried to move but felt pain shoot across his ribs, making him gasp softly. The air was warm and carried a faint scent of flowers. Unfamiliar, but strangely comforting. Ethan blinked a few more times, trying to understand where he was, but his vision kept blurring. His head throbbed. His throat was dry. He could barely breathe properly. His left leg was stuck under a bent piece of metal from the shuttle's broken frame. He tried pushing it away, but his strength failed instantly. Pain shot up again, sharper this time. He clenched his teeth and tried to focus, but exhaustion wrapped around him like a heavy blanket. Days of training told him to stay calm. His body told him to sleep. He didn't know how long he lay there, half-conscious, drifting in and out of awareness. At times, he could hear the wind moving through tall grass. Other times he heard distant humming sounds, like the planet itself was breathing. He wondered if anyone from his crew had even noticed he was missing. Then he heard something else: footsteps. Light, soft, steady. Not an animal. Too controlled. Not a robot. Too natural. His heartbeat grew faster. He tried to open his eyes, but he could only lift one eyelid halfway. All he saw was a tall figure, walking slowly toward him. The figure moved with grace, not hesitation, as if completely confident of the land around them. The steps stopped right next to him. A shadow fell over his body. He tried to speak, but a dry, weak sound escaped instead. The figure knelt beside him, and for a moment, Ethan thought he was dreaming. She was clearly not human. Her skin had a soft glow like polished silver with warm gold undertones. Her hair flowed down her back like strands of light, shifting between white and metallic blue whenever the wind touched it. She had delicate facial markings that looked like natural patterns rather than paint. Her eyes were large, bright, and unlike anything Ethan had ever seen, blue like twin moons. Deep and full of emotion. She studied him closely, her expression calm, yet full of concern. One of her hands, long-fingered and elegant, touched his forehead gently. Her skin felt warm, soothing against his injured body. She spoke softly, but her language sounded musical, full of gentle tones and flowing sounds he couldn't understand. Ethan swallowed hard and whispered, "Who are you?" The woman observed his lips and repeated the sound quietly, as if trying to decode his words. Then she lifted a small device from a belt at her waist. A beam of light scanned his body from head to toe. She frowned slightly, not in anger, but in worry. Her voice shifted as she tried to speak his language. Human, hurt. Ethan blinked slowly. She knew the word human. That meant she at least understood something about his kind. She placed a hand over his chest, and a soft warmth spread through him. The pain dulled. The pressure in his ribs eased, and his breathing grew steadier. He felt his muscles relax even though he had not meant to loosen them. "Do not fear," she said slowly. "I help." He stared at her in shock. A stranger, an alien woman, could speak his words. Not fluently, not fully, but enough for him to understand. He tried to sit up, and she immediately pressed her hand lightly against his shoulder, guiding him back down. No, rest. Body weak. Ethan nodded faintly. He could hardly argue. His body felt like it was melting into the ground. She gently lifted the metal piece, trapping his leg as if it weighed nothing. Ethan's eyes widened in surprise. Her strength was far beyond what her graceful appearance suggested. She slid one arm under his back and one under his legs, lifting him effortlessly. His head rested against her shoulder, and for the first time since the crash, he felt safe. He whispered, "Thank you." Her eyes softened, and a small, gentle smile appeared. "You live. Good." She stood up with him in her arms and began walking. Her steps were smooth, steady, and confident. The tall silver grass brushed against her ankles as she moved, bending away as if it recognized her presence. The sky shifted colors slowly, like a living painting. Ethan's voice was faint. "Where are you taking me?" "Where?" She looked down at him. "Home," she answered. Then she added softly, "Safe." He took a slow breath. Part of him wanted to ask more. Part of him didn't have the strength. His eyes closed more than once, but each time he opened them again, she was still carrying him, still watching him with quiet worry. After some time, the landscape opened. A large valley spread out below them. In the center hovered an enormous palace made of crystal-like towers. Light moved across its surface like flowing water. The entire structure floated above the ground with shimmering energy lines holding it in place. Ethan stared in awe. He had never seen anything like it. She stepped onto a glowing platform. The air hummed as the platform recognized her and rose upward. They floated toward the palace. The closer they came, the more details Ethan could make out: softly glowing walls, bridges made of light, floating symbols that moved in the air like living patterns. He whispered, "This is your home?" "Yes," she said softly. "My palace." Ethan's sore throat tightened slightly. The woman held him closer, her silver gold skin glowing faintly under the palace lights. "I am Lyrana," she answered, "Queen of the Astral Dominion." A queen. Ethan's tired mind struggled to process that. The one who found him wasn't just anyone. She was a ruler, a leader, someone with immense authority. The platform landed on a balcony. Guards immediately approached. They were tall like her and wore armor that shimmered in shifting colors. They kneeled instantly when they saw Lyrana. One guard spoke quickly in their language, clearly surprised to see her carrying a human. Lyrana responded sharply, though not with anger, more like she was giving a command. The guards bowed their heads and stepped aside. Ethan stared. "They listen to you." "I am their queen," she said simply. "They obey." She carried him inside her private chamber, a room full of warm lights and gently floating ornaments that responded to her presence. Everything felt alive but peaceful. She set him down on a bed that molded to his shape automatically, giving him perfect support. She took a small container from a floating shelf and gently applied a glowing substance to his ribs, arm, and leg. Warmth spread through him again, soothing and calming. "You safe here," she said quietly. "Rest now." Ethan blinked, his eyes growing heavy. But one question pressed in his mind. "Why? Help me." Lyrana paused. Her expression softened in a way he didn't understand yet. She placed her hand over his heart gently. "When I found you, I felt connection." He frowned faintly. She took a breath. "In my world, ancient bond. It chooses two souls. Strong, rare, final." Ethan didn't understand the full meaning, but the tone warmed something inside him. She leaned closer, her voice low and soft. "The bond chose you." He swallowed. "And what does that mean?" "Oh." Her fingers lightly brushed the side of his face, gentle and protective. "When bond chooses, queen must claim." Ethan's eyes widened slightly, but sleep pulled him down faster than he could react. His body relaxed fully, sinking into the bed's warm support. Lyrana watched him breathe quietly. Her face changed, soft, calm, full of something deep. She whispered something in her own language, a word filled with meaning he didn't understand yet. She gently placed her hand over his chest and murmured in slow, careful human words, "You are mine now, human." Her voice was not harsh, not forceful. It was warm, protective, and full of a promise she intended to keep. She stayed beside him all night, watching over him with a silent devotion no one in her kingdom had ever seen from her before. Ethan woke slowly, as if his body needed permission to return to the world. Warmth surrounded him, and for a moment he thought he was still dreaming. The bed beneath him shaped itself to his every movement. A soft breeze moved through the air, even though the windows were closed. Gentle lights floated overhead like living lanterns. The scent of something sweet drifted through the room. He blinked several times before he was able to open his eyes fully. His chest rose and fell without pain. His leg felt lighter. His arm no longer throbbed. It was as if the injuries from the crash had faded overnight. When he finally looked around, he saw the tall doors of the chamber slowly opening. And there she was. Queen Lyrana stepped inside with the quiet confidence of someone who carried entire worlds behind her eyes. She was dressed in a long, flowing robe that shimmered like silver mist. Her hair fell in soft waves like liquid light. The moment she saw Ethan awake, her steps changed, softer, slower, almost gentle. She approached the bed and stopped beside him. "You wake," she said softly. Ethan tried to push himself up on his elbows. His body responded better than he expected. "Yeah, I'm awake. I feel better." Lyrana placed her hand lightly on his shoulder, as if making sure he didn't strain himself. "Your body heal fast. My medicine help." Ethan nodded. "It did more than help. I feel like I slept for a week." She watched him closely, as if checking every small reaction. Her large, moon-like eyes glowed with a calm that eased him somehow. "You safe here," she said again, repeating the words she had spoken the night before, but this time the tone was warmer, almost personal. Ethan took a slow breath and looked around. "Where exactly am I?" "My palace," she answered. "In center of astral dominion. My people guard it." He studied the room again. "It's beautiful." Lyrana tilted her head slightly, her expression softening with a hint of pride. "Thank you." Ethan hesitated, then slowly asked, "Why did you bring me here? You could have taken me anywhere. A healer. A medical center. A guard post. Why your personal chamber?" Lyrana did not look away. "Because Bond chose you." Ethan swallowed. It was the same strange phrase she had said last night. He tried to understand. "You said something about a bond. Something ancient?" She nodded slowly. "Long before my world rise to stars, our ancestors know of a connection. Only few ever find it. Two souls. Matched. Pulled together. Not by choice. By destiny." Ethan's heart beat a little faster. "And you're saying that happened with me?" Yes," she said simply, as if the truth was already settled. Ethan looked down at his hands, unsure how to respond. He had never believed in destiny. He believed in training, skill, and luck. But the way she said it made it sound like something she took seriously, something her entire people respected. He looked back up at her. "What does this bond mean? For you? For your people?" Lyrana sat on the edge of the bed, her movements gentle. "When bond forms, Queen must protect." Her voice lowered. "And Queen must claim." Ethan felt his throat tighten slightly. He had never been near royalty in his life, let alone been claimed by one. "Claim," he repeated slowly. "Claim. How?" She seemed to understand his confusion. Her hand moved toward his face, but stopped just short of touching him. as if she was waiting for permission. When he didn't pull away, she lightly brushed a strand of hair away from his forehead. "Claim means, you belong under my protection," she explained. "I guard you. I guide you. I take responsibility for your life." Ethan nodded slowly. That part made sense. But she continued, "And you stand with me, at my side, as chosen partner." Ethan blinked. "Partner?" She nodded once, quietly. Ethan's breath stalled for a moment. He wasn't sure if he had heard right. He wasn't sure if she understood the weight of that word. "Lyrana. We just met." Her eyes softened even further. "Bond does not wait for time. It happens in one moment. Or never." He took a slow breath, trying to process everything. She wasn't speaking with force. She wasn't demanding anything from him. She was explaining something sacred to her, something she believed with her entire heart. It wasn't a threat. It was a vow. Ethan looked at her carefully. "And you're sure this Bond chose me?" Her lips curved into the smallest smile. "When I touched your heart, I felt it. Warm, strong, clear." She placed a hand gently over her own chest. "My heart answered it." Ethan felt a strange warmth rise in his chest. He wasn't used to such openness, especially from someone who ruled an entire dominion. She looked at him not like a queen looking at a stranger, but like a person seeing someone important. Before he could reply, a soft chime echoed through the room. Lyrana turned her head as a floating holographic symbol appeared near the doorway. It pulsed gently. A guard stepped inside, bowing deeply. He spoke in the Queen's language, explaining something with a serious tone. Lyrana's expression sharpened, though she remained calm. Ethan watched quietly as she stood up. The guard continued speaking, and Lyrana nodded once, before lifting her hand to dismiss him. The guard bowed again, and left. Ethan finally asked, "Is something wrong?" Lyrana turned back to him. "Some of my council wish to speak with me. They learn human found." A small frown touched her lips. "Some worry." Ethan pushed himself up more. "Worry? Because of me?" She stepped closer again. "Not because of who you are, because they do not understand Bond." She placed her hand gently on his leg. "They will learn." Crows. 5. 1. Ethan nodded. "If you need to go, I'll be fine." Her eyes lingered on him a moment longer than necessary. "I return soon. You rest." She turned to leave but paused at the doorway. She looked back at him with a softness he hadn't expected. "You are not alone here," she said quietly. "I am with you." Then she walked out, the door closing behind her. Ethan leaned back onto the bed, exhaling slowly. He had come to this planet, thinking he would take samples and return to his crew. Now he was lying in a floating palace, belonging to an alien queen who believed in a mystical bond connecting their souls. And the strange part was, he didn't feel scared. He should have been overwhelmed. But instead, he felt calm. Too calm. Something inside him felt warm each time she spoke to him, each time she touched him, each time she said he was safe. He didn't know if this bond was real, but he couldn't deny that something powerful had awakened between them. While he rested, floating lights drifted quietly above him. Soft music hummed from the walls. A small device hovered near him, monitoring his condition. The palace felt alive, almost like a living guardian, watching over him. After about an hour, Ethan tried standing. His legs wobbled at first, but he steadied himself. The room responded by brightening slightly, as if encouraging him. When he walked closer to the large window, the sight stunned him again. The entire city floated in the sky. Roads made of light connected smaller towers. Crystals hovered like drifting islands. Below, the silver grass valley swayed as gentle winds moved across it. In the far distance, mountains glowed with streaks of blue energy. He whispered to himself, "This place is unreal." He didn't hear the door open behind him, but he felt a warm, soft presence and turned to see Lirana entering quietly. Her eyes scanned him instantly, checking he was steady. "You stand." Ethan smiled slightly. "I'm trying." She approached slowly. "My council question my decision, but I answer them. I tell them, human belongs under my protection. Trastin." Ethan raised his eyebrows. "Did they accept that?" "They must," she said with calm certainty. "I am queen." She came closer until she was only a few steps away. Ethan felt her presence like a gentle heat against his skin. She looked at him with deep, calm eyes. "I worry you feel trapped," she said softly. Ethan shook his head. "No. Honestly, I feel safe. I don't understand everything yet, but you've saved me twice now. I trust you." Her eyes widened slightly, as if the word trust meant something deep to her. She stepped even closer, her voice lowering. "Then let me show you my world." She extended her hand toward him, palm open. Ethan looked at her hand, then at her eyes. Something inside him made the decision for him. He placed his hand in hers. Her fingers closed gently around his, warm and steady. She didn't pull him, she didn't command him, she simply guided him as they walked through the palace halls. Every guard they passed stopped and bowed deeply, watching Ethan with wide eyes but without disrespect. It was clear they did not fully understand the queen's decision, but they did not question it openly. Lirana showed him rooms filled with floating tablets, places where history was written in living light. She showed him gardens where plants glowed softly and changed colors when touched. She brought him to a balcony where the wind carried soft, humming tones. As they stood together, Ethan felt calm settle over him again. Lirana looked at him, her voice gentle. "Now you see my world." Ethan nodded. "It's beautiful." She studied his face for a long moment. "I protect this world. I protect my people. And now," she placed her hand over his chest again, feeling his heart. "I protect you." Ethan's breath slowed. He looked into her glowing eyes and felt something inside him shift. Something warm. Something deep. He didn't know if he believed in destiny, but standing beside her, he felt like maybe he could. Ethan stood beside Queen Lirana on the high balcony, staring out at the drifting towers of her shining city. The wind carried a soft hum, as if the planet itself produced its own gentle music. Light from the floating crystals formed slow-moving patterns in the air. Everything felt peaceful, almost unreal. He was still trying to understand everything that had happened to him. One day earlier, he was just a human scout flying a basic shuttle. Now he was walking beside a queen who said destiny had bonded their souls. Lirana watched him quietly. She studied him the same way she had since she found him calm, gentle, and strangely protective. When she looked at him, it didn't feel like the gaze of a queen analyzing her subject. It felt personal. Finally, she spoke. "You feel strange. I sense it." Ethan let out a slow breath. "I'm trying to make sense of all this. I've never heard of this bond. I've never been inside a place like this. And you," he hesitated, "you treat me like I'm someone important." "You are important," she said softly. "To me. To the bond. To destiny." Ethan pressed his fingers against the balcony railing, trying to steady his thoughts. "But why me? You said the bond chooses. But what does it choose based on? Strength? Honor? Spirit?" Lirana stepped closer. The silver glow around her skin brightened faintly. "It chooses heart." Ethan blinked. She nodded. "Not your blood heart. Your inner heart. The place where courage lives. Where kindness lives. Where truth lives." He looked down, unsure how to respond. He had never considered himself special. He was just another explorer doing his duty. Lirana continued, her voice soft. When I found you, you were hurt. Weak. But your heart was strong. You did not fear death. You accepted pain. You did not cry for help. That strength, my world, values deeply. Ethan felt warmth rise in his chest. I wasn't brave. I was just stuck. She smiled gently. Humans see themselves small, but I see what many cannot. He didn't know what to say, so he simply nodded. Silence settled between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Her presence felt warm enough to fill the quiet. After a moment, Lyrana spoke again. There is more you must understand. About Bond. About my people. About what comes next. Ethan turned toward her fully. I'm listening. She walked a few steps away and motioned for him to follow her. Together, they made their way through the palace halls. Everywhere they went, guards and attendants bowed deeply. Ethan felt their eyes on him, confused, respectful, curious, but no one challenged him. Finally, Lyrana led him into a large chamber with floating lights arranged in a wide circle. At the center stood a tall crystal obelisk. Light pulsed inside it like a slow heartbeat. Ethan stared in awe. What is this? The core of echoes, Lyrana said. It remembers every bond in our history. She touched the surface of the crystal, and it responded to her immediately. Rings of light spread outward. Images formed in the air. Soft, glowing figures of pairs standing together. These are the ones who came before us, she explained. Queen and partner. Warrior and soul match. Leader and chosen one. Ethan watched the shifting images carefully. None of the figures were human. Most were tall like Lyrana, glowing slightly. Their bodies graceful and elegant. Their partners varied, some smaller, some taller, some stronger, some softer. But in every image, the way they stood beside one another carried a clear connection. Bond is rare, Lyrana said quietly. Not every queen finds it. Many rule alone, but when Bond appears, it changes everything. Ethan swallowed. Changes how? Lyrana turned toward him fully. Her expression held a depth he had not seen until now. Queen cannot ignore Bond. It ties our fates. If I reject it, my heart weakens. My power breaks. My people suffer. Ethan's eyes widened. Rejecting it is dangerous? Yes, she whispered. But accepting it brings strength, peace, balance. Ethan felt the weight of her words settle over him. So you're telling me your future? Your power? Your people depend on this? Not depend, she corrected softly. But Bond makes Queen complete. Ethan looked down at his hands. And I'm supposed to be that missing part? She stepped closer and reached for his hand. Her touch was warm. Not supposed. You already are. Ethan exhaled slowly. I don't want to harm your people, or make them feel threatened. I don't want to be the reason they worry. Lyrana squeezed his hand gently. You will not. I will teach them to understand. They trust me. And I trust you. Ethan looked into her glowing eyes and felt something shift inside him again, an emotion he could not describe. A mix of calm, warmth, and connection. Suddenly, the large doors of the chamber opened. Several council members entered, tall and glowing like Lyrana, but older and dressed in deep ceremonial robes. Their expressions were serious. The eldest among them stepped forward. He spoke in their native language, his tone respectful but firm. Lyrana listened without interruption. Ethan stood still, unsure if he should speak. The elder's gaze moved to Ethan, studying him with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Lyrana moved slightly to stand closer to the human, as if she was instinctively shielding him. When the elder finished speaking, Lyrana answered calmly. Her words were even but strong. The elders exchanged glances, clearly surprised by her confidence. Ethan didn't understand the words, but he could sense the tension. When Lyrana finished, The elders bowed deeply. One by one, they left the chamber. Ethan turned to her. What did they say? They worry human is fragile, she answered softly. They ask if you can stand beside Queen. And what did you tell them? Her lips curved into a small smile. I told them you already do. He felt his heart skip in his chest. Even though I'm human? She said gently. Yes. And that is no weakness. Her voice carried so much certainty that Ethan had no choice but to believe her. He took a slow breath. Thank you. Her eyes softened. You do not need thank me. Bond brings us together. I only follow truth. She stepped closer until she was only a breath away from him. He felt the warmth of her presence and the soft glow of her skin. Ethan, she whispered, there is something more. He met her gaze. What is it? She reached out and touched his chest lightly, right where his heart beat beneath his skin. Bond needs acceptance. He swallowed. Yes, she said softly. I feel the bond already. Strong. Clear. But you must feel it too. Ethan closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about everything she had done for him, saving his life, healing him, protecting him from her own counsel, showing him her world, treating him like someone valuable. He felt the warmth in his chest again. He didn't know if it was fate or something simpler, but he couldn't deny what he felt standing next to her. When he opened his eyes again, she was watching him with quiet hope. I don't know how this bond works, he said honestly, but I feel something when I'm near you. Something I can't explain. It's warm, safe, strong. I don't know if that's what the bond feels like, but if it is, then yes, I accept it. Lirana inhaled softly, almost like a quiet gasp. Her eyes brightened, glowing like twin moons reflecting starlight. She placed her other hand over his and whispered, Then, bond is complete. Ethan felt a rush of warmth move through him, spreading from his chest to his fingertips. It wasn't painful. It wasn't strange. It felt right, like something inside him finally settled into place. Lirana leaned her forehead gently against his. You stand with me now. Not as stranger, not as guest, but as chosen. Ethan breathed her words quietly. He didn't fully understand the responsibility, but he knew he wouldn't turn away from it. Lirana stepped back slightly, still holding his hand. Now my people will see you differently. They will accept you because bond is ancient. It cannot be denied. Ethan nodded. I'll try to meet their expectations. I'll try to be worthy. You already are, she said softly. She led him out of the chamber into a large open hall. Guards and attendants waited outside. When they saw Lirana holding Ethan's hand, whispers spread quickly. But they weren't whispers of fear. They were whispers of awe. One by one, the guards knelt. Not to Lirana. To both of them. Ethan felt a shock run through him. He shook his head slightly. They're bowing to me? Yes, Lirana said quietly. You are bond chosen. You stand with Queen. Ethan felt the weight of the moment settle in his chest. Not heavy. Not frightening. Just real. He looked at Lirana. She looked back with warmth and certainty. From now on, she whispered, you are not alone. You walk my world with me. Ethan squeezed her hand gently. And I stand with you. The moment felt like a promise, unspoken but strong. A promise he wasn't going to break.